In my last record progression video about the absurd difficulty involved in breaking the women's 200 fly world record, a lot of you posed the following question: which men's world record is the hardest to break? And while there can be cases made for a couple of different events, most people mentioned one men's event in particular, the 800 freestyle. So how did that seemingly untouchable world record get to where it is today? The first time the men's 800 free was contested at the Olympics, it wasn't actually the 800 meter freestyle, it was the 880 yard freestyle, which comes out to just over 804 meters. The winner of the race in the 1904 Olympic Games was Germany's Emil Rausch in a blistering 13:11.4, which he actually did swimming the side stroke, and this makes him the last man to win an Olympic gold using the technique. This would be the last time that the 800 free was contested at the Olympic Games for over 100 years, but the event, or its 880 yard sister event, would be contested at various meets through the years. In 1906, Henry Taylor would smash the world record in the 880 free with an 11:25.4. This record would stand until 1920, when American Norman Ross would take a second off of the record with an 11:24.2. In the 1930s, Francis Jean Thierry and Japan's Shozo Makino would trade the world record a couple of times and push the mark past the next big barrier, but this time in the actual 800 meter event. In 1934, Makino will become the first man to swim the event in under 10 minutes, stopping the clock in 9:55.8. Once again, the world record would be brought lower and lower over time, and in 1958 and 1959, we see the 880 yard freestyle make an appearance for the last time, I promise, as Australia's John Conrads would swim a 9:14.5 to undercut the world record in 1958, and then a massive 8:59.6 the following year to break the record once more and be the first man under 9 minutes in either format of the event. And to eliminate the confusion with the yards version of the event, fellow Australian Murray Rose would be the first man under 9 minutes in the meters version, with an 8:51.5. At the 1968 US Olympic trials, a new pattern would emerge of swimmers breaking the 800 free world record during the opening split of their 1500. At those trials, we saw Mike Burton flip in an 8:34.3 to set a new world record. The following year, Burton would break the 800 record during his 1500 race once more, this time in an 8:28.8. In 1973, Australia's Stephen Holland would take control of the record, splitting times of 8:17.6 and 8:16.27, once at a tune-up meet before Worlds, and then once more at the first ever Swimming World Championships, as Holland swam his way to the first ever world title in the 1500. At the 1974 World Championship trials, American Tim Shaw would lower the record to an 8:13.68 as a split in the 1500 before swimming the event as a standalone 800 a month later to lower the mark further with an 8:09.60. But Holland wasn't done quite yet. At the 1976 Australian Olympic trials, he would smash the world record twice, first with an 8:06.27 in the 1500, and then 2 days later with an 8:02.91 in the standalone event, coming tantalizingly close to that 8-minute barrier. Further flirting with that barrier was American Bobby Hackett, who 4 months later at the American Olympic trials split an 8:01.54 to take the record for himself. However, a new man was about to burst onto the scene. In 1979, at a dual meet between East Germany and the Soviet Union, Russian swimmer Vladimir Salnikov would become the first man to swim the event in under 8 minutes. During his 1500 swim, he turned at the 800 meter mark in a blistering 7:56.49 to smash Hackett's world record mark. Salnikov would go on to be a dominant force at distance swimming. At the 1980 Olympics, he would also become the first man to break 15 minutes in the 1500. Salnikov would break the 800 freestyle record 3 more times in his career, all in the standalone event at various meets. In 1986, he reset his world record for the final time with a 7:50.64. That mark would be broken 5 years later at the 1991 Pan-Pacific Championships by Kieran Perkins during his 1500 swim, as he turned in a 7:47.85. At the 1994 Commonwealth Games, Perkins improved his opening split in the 1500, now turning to break the world record in a 7:46.00. 5 years later, in 2001, the 800 free would be added as its own event for that year's World Championships, and with a high-level international meet finally hosting the event, the stage was set for the world record to be smashed. At the 2001 Australian Worlds Team Trials, Grant Hackett and Ian Thorpe would square off in the 800 free, and it was clear that these two swimmers would be battling it out the entire race from the very first 50, where they flipped together at the exact same time to the 100th. After the first 50 meters, Hackett would maintain a lead over Thorpe, but Thorpe would never leave his side as the two swam most of the race stroke for stroke, with the gap between them sometimes coming down to mere hundredths. At the 700 meter mark, Thorpe had taken the lead for the first time in the the entire race, but he took what started off as a very close race and made it appear completely one-sided, as he sprinted away from Hackett, putting multiple body lengths between the two swimmers over the final 100. Ian Thorpe would smash the world record in a 7:41.59, and Hackett's second place finish was also under the former record with a 7:44.57. Thorpe actually managed to negative split this race very heavily, going out in 3:52.2 and coming back in 3:49.3. Just a few months later in Fukuoka, Japan, Thorpe managed to push his own record even lower. Thorpe negative split his race once again and was even faster on both 400s, going out in 3:50.5 and coming home in 3:48.6. And once again, Grant Hackett finished second behind Thorpe while also swimming a time faster than the previous world record. But Hackett would get his chance just 2 years later at the 2005 World Championships. Hackett would fire off a 7:38.65 to finally take the world record all for himself. But of course, our story comes to a close at the 2009 World Championships in Rome, where this world record would receive its untouchable status. As the race started, Hackett's world record splits had a lead over the field. Osama Miluli would take the early lead, but at the 250 turn, Zhang Lin took the first position, and at the halfway mark dipped under world record pace for the first time. As the race continued, Zhang held his lead, but Miluli wasn't going anywhere anytime soon, as he stayed right with Zhang, and with 100 meters to go, the two swimmers were less than 3/10 apart. On the next 50, Zhang expanded his lead a little bit, outsplitting Miluli by 2/10, but Zhang dropped the hammer on the final 50, swimming with a massively increased stroke rate as he roared home in a 25.99, a closing split that is second only to Ian Thorpe. Zhang touched the wall in an unbelievable 7:32.12 to slice 6.5 seconds off of Hackett's world record. Miluli also torched the former record with his own 7:35.27. Since that swim, no one has come close to breaking this world record. At the 2011 World Championships, Soon Yang would swim his way to a 7:38.57, going past Hackett in the all-time rankings but well out of world record range. At the Tokyo Olympics in 2021, the men's 800-meter free was added to the event schedule for the first time ever, 117 years after the 880-yard event was first and last contested. Even this spectacular swim is well off of the world record. Even Fink's world title winning time of 7:39.36 the next year was still far, far away from the mark. The next year at the 2023 World Championships, we saw the event take its biggest leap forward since those two insane swims from 2009. At that year's Worlds, Ahmed Hafnaoui and Sam Short dueled fiercely in the 800 free, with Bobby Fink, Daniel Wiffen, and Lucas Martins in the mix as well. After 800 meters of swimming, Hafnaoui touched the wall in a massive 7:37.00. Short, Fink, Wiffen, and Martins rounded out the top finishers, with those 5 swimmers in the same heat, becoming the 3rd, 4th, 7th, 9th, and 11th fastest performers in the history of the event. The men's 800 free is in a historically fast spot, with so many swimmers under 7:40 at the same time, and all able to push each other faster and faster. But even with all that talent in the event right now, no active swimmer has been within 5 seconds of Zhang's world record. Looking at the splits between Zhang and the next 3 closest active swimmers, we can get a good picture of just how bulletproof this record appears to be. The one weakness that Zhang's record shows is a lack of opening speed, actually being last at the first 100 between these 4 swimmers, and slower than Hafnaoui and Short over the second 100 as well. But after that, the story changes dramatically. No one manages to outsplit Zhang on any of the other 6 100s. Zhang even has the only 56-second splits, coming right in the middle of the race, as well as being the only swimmer to not fade to 58-second splits at any point in the race. All of that, along with the fastest closing 100 by half a second, more than makes up for the slower opening splits. Zhang's 7:32.12 is a masterfully swam race with no obvious weak point for improvement. And yeah, it just might be the hardest world record to break, even when stacked up against the other remaining supersuited world records. What event do you want to see me cover next? Leave a comment down below and you just might see it covered soon. And how long do you think it will take for this record to ever be broken?